My name is Okuhle Sapo. My presentation is about the Forensic Anthropology Research Center at the University of Pretoria, and I just want to give a presentation on what a technician in this research center does. These are the topics that I'll be covering throughout my presentation. Prior to human remains being provided with a biological profile from a forensic analyst, there are various steps that lead up to that point when they are received in the forensic anthropology lab, and this is part of the presentation that I want to show that I'll be providing here today. And technicians are the individuals that ensure that some of these steps are followed as they're supposed to be done, and because this ensures that the remains are in a good state, where they can be analyzed. The Forensic Anthropology Research Center was established in 2008 at the University of Pretoria under the Department of Anatomy, and it has a staff complement of 5 fully permanent staff and contract-based staff as well, and these aid in our contractual obligation with the South African Police Services, and we specifically deal with one of the units under the South African Police Services named the Victim Identification Center. And the cases that we usually receive have a very in terms of the state of decomposition, and the spectrum of the decomp is usually from fresh decomposition to highly skeletonized, and we receive our cases on an ad hoc basis. My duties as a technician are as follows. I assist in the maintaining of the lab. I also aid in the upkeep of the database, forensic database of cases. I do the maceration of our cadaveric and forensic casework, because I'm in an academic institution, so that's why we have to do the maceration of cadaveric individuals, and also we do some community service work, which relates to the analysis of forensic cases, writing up of reports, and as well as organizing excavation, and also some other duties as well is providing like assistance for the undergraduate and postgraduate modules, and also assisting with the training of some of the law enforcement personnel as well as postgrad students. Usually with the postgrad students are the BSc honor students that are doing training as aspiring forensic anthropology students. And as well, I assist in the growth of the skeletal collections that are housed within the Department of Anatomy in the University of Pretoria. To be a technician in the Forensic Research Center, the qualification that you required is basic medical sciences, which covers a broad array of modules such as human osteology, paleoanthropology, and forensic anthropology in undergraduate. This is the broad outline of the case analysis process. So usually it starts with us receiving the case from the South African Police Services, which they usually make contact with us, and then they set an arrangement with us so that they can see us at the lab, and then the case documentation once the case has arrived in the lab, and then we sign transfer forms, and we do an initial, and we then document the human remains as they come, and then we get categorize whether it is burned, skeletonized, fresh decom, advanced decom, and then once we've done that process, and the next process that follows afterwards is the skeletal disarticulation, and then once that has been completed is the macerated, and then they're cleaned, and then they're dried, and then once they're dried, we transfer them to the non-biohazardous side of the lab, and then they are analyzed. And after that they're analyzed, then we transfer the remains back to the police with a completed report. In order for you to access your remains, you need to disarticulate them prior to doing an analysis, and as a technician you need to have a embedded knowledge of your human osteology and your gross anatomy, because you need to know where to cut along the body in order for you to be able to successfully disarticulate your human remains without damaging the bone as well. And while doing so, you remove as much tissue as possible prior to you placing them inside the maceration pots. And one of the things that we do is that I was trained to do is that you do not cut through the flesh, because that will cause damage to the bones. So you use some cutting motion, but you use it as limited as possible, and then you use flexion and rotation of your limbs, and as you do so, you sort of detach all the tendons and the ligaments all along, while doing so along your major joints along in your body. The maceration process is one of the key steps that you have to ensure that you follow it properly and you do it properly and you know what you're doing, because you can cause a lot of damage to your remains if you don't do it properly. And this process briefly is just to ensure that all the tissue that is adhering to your bones, it can be easily removed, and usually this process just involves you boiling the remains in boiling water for a specific amount of hours, and that varies from case to case, and it depends whether is your case a burn case, is it a fresh decom case, is it a carnivore case. But all of these cases vary, and your approaches, and you adapt your approach as you go along, and you usually have to regularly check on your cases just to see is everything going well. Do I need to drain the pots, or do I need to leave them longer along? These are the maceration pots in our lab, and there are two maceration pots that we use, and we usually have it has two trays inside of each pot, and we usually put one case per tray, and each case that is put in each tray is cataloged or tagged. After you placing the remains, after you have macerated the remains, you have to clean them so that you remove all the tissue that is loosely adhering to your bones. And usually this process is very quick and very basic, and you wash them in soap water, which is another highly corrosive detergent to clean your remains with, and it doesn't do any damage because it's very okay to clean your remains with. And once you clean the remains, you place them into a bucket of diluted bleach, and you allow it to rest there for a while. And then once you've allowed it to rest, then you put them in one of our sinks that we usually pour water in, clear water without anything, and then we rinse the remains afterwards. Rinse them for a while, and then put them in one of our drying records. And usually in that record is case-specific record. Usually you do the case that is specified on that record first, and that's to keep the chain of custody of your records, of your cases, I mean. And it varies how difficult of cleaning the different types of bones varies, and the long bones are usually easier to clean because they're more tubular, nothing more complicated about them. And then there's some other skeletal elements such as the skull and the sacrum, which are very difficult to clean because of how they're shaped, and it kind of becomes, you have to adopt certain ways to clean them. But one of the most critical things that is very key about this process is not to leave any tissue adhering on your remains, because that invites microbial growth to occur, and that is not something that you really want to see on your remains, and because that means you lose your productivity and you have to redo the entire process all over again. These are the cleaning utensils that I use, and as you can see, they're sponges, they're toothbrushes, and that kidney shaped container is usually where we put all the material, all the tissue that we removed or cleaned, and then we transfer it to one of the biohazardous buckets. And all of the other brushes on your right hand side of the screen, they are used to clean the skull, the inner structure, inner surface of the skull. While you're cleaning, you wear personal protective equipment, and you wear your gown, surgical gown that you protect the clothes on, and you wear your surgical mask, 3-ply surgical mask, and then your high-vis gloves, and usually underneath, and also you wear a pair of rubber boots as well, and usually you are in your scrubs most of the time. And you just see how we look like in full PPE regalia. In closing, as a technician, you really need to ensure that you have a well thought out plan of how you can approach this entire processes that I've explained prior to in the previous slides, because your main objective is to ensure that the bones, once it reaches the case analyst, it's in the most pristine or most good condition for it to be analyzed. The analyst doesn't have to worry about there being tissue or there being something obscuring something, area of the bone where they need to analyze. Because that's what you need to do, and with time and with experience, as I've personally experienced, you become more agile in your feet and how you do these things, because you get better, you modify things, and you do are able to know, okay, this is the processes that I approach when I see a particular case, and this is what I need to do, this is what I should not do. And as long as by you following a proper way of doing these things, various tasks as a technician, you ensure that you are able to keep everything intact, and from the time the case is received to the time it's analyzed, all of those things are intact, are proper, and good. Thank you for listening to my talk, and I want to say special thanks to Dr. Vanessa Campanash for providing me with this opportunity to present this. Thank you so much.